The Prime Minister. Near midnight, on a Saturday in May 1941, a great wave of planes appeared over London, their silhouettes against a moonlit sky. As they roared past Westminster Bridge, whole streets were set ablaze. Fires broke out at Westminster Abbey, and shrapnel pounded the tower of Big Ben. Soon flames were sweeping through the debating chamber of the House of Commons. Its roof fell away, the galleries collapsed, and a shower of twisted steel and masonry buried the rows of green leather benches where so many famous debates had raged over the decades. Only the scorched walls were left standing. The next afternoon, while parts of London were still burning and the smell of smoke was everywhere, Winston Churchill came to Parliament to inspect the damage. This was the second spring of Adolf Hitler's war against Great Britain, and Churchill was just completing his first year as Prime Minister. To everyone's surprise, the clock tower, though blackened and pockmarked, withstood the raid, and Big Ben was continuing to strike the hours. Because the attack had come late at night, only a few people had been in the building, and the death toll was limited to 3, including 2 policemen. Over the whole of London, however, the casualty rate was appalling. With more than 3,000 killed or injured, it would prove to be the worst night of the Blitz. As he poked through the rubble, Churchill paused beside some charred beams and cast a solemn gaze over the destruction. With its roof gone, the wrecked chamber was illuminated by a pale shaft of sunlight, and the air was thick with dust. There were no relics to salvage, nothing new to learn about the enemy's methods. At one level, this was simply the latest in a long list of venerable buildings to suffer the fury of modern war. But of course, there was a greater casualty here, a direct hit on the very heart of British political life. In a flash, Hitler's bombers had gutted the home of one of the world's most important democratic assemblies. As Churchill would later put it, "Our old House of Commons has been blown to smithereens." The loss was personal. The Prime Minister had spent much of his life in this chamber, beginning with his appearance on its floor as a new member 40 years earlier, when he was a slender young man with fine reddish hair, sharp blue eyes, and a boy's freckled face. Here, as he would say, I learnt my craft. On this ground his father, Lord Randolph Churchill, had stood as an ally of Disraeli and an adversary of Gladstone. In the ladies' gallery, his American-born mother, the indomitable Jenny, had watched proudly as her son gave his maiden speech. He had sparred with friends and enemies here, from the early days of the century when he matched wits with the political powerhouse Joseph Chamberlain, to more recent times when he challenged the judgment of Joe's youngest son, Neville, who so badly misjudged Hitler in the 1930s. Here he had enjoyed moments of triumph and endured defeats, given brilliant speeches and occasionally a dull one, earned the admiration of many and enraged not a few. On one memorable occasion early in his career, an opponent had jumped up during a raucous debate, grabbed the Speaker's bound volume of the rules of the House, and thrown it at him, hitting him in the face and drawing blood. During the abdication crisis of 1936, when he had tried to offer words of support for Edward VIII, howls of protest had filled the chamber, silencing him, and causing some to predict that his political career was at an end. Just 3 days before Hitler's planes dropped their bombs on this spot, Churchill's old friend and rival from the early years, David Lloyd George, had risen in the debates to paint a bleak picture of the progress of the war, complaining